Hi everybody, good afternoon. This is Kelly McKenney Golden and I am presenting my case study for EDL 854, Educational Finance for Professor Gearing, and we're looking at the Missing Booster Club Funds. So Category 1, Problem Identification and Analysis. So a little bit about what we know. So we're looking at George Washington Middle School. It's a relatively small middle school in the city of Warren. It's about 450 students. Most of the families live in an old residential area. There's been declining socioeconomic demographic over the past 10 years due to younger couples moving to the suburbs. But there's still, active community and family involvement. The family has an active PTA that does a lot of after-school activities. They do reading buddies. Students are especially active in sports, basketball, volleyball, and track. And parents often collect at the gate and sell concessions. So there's definitely still a very active community at George Washington Middle School with concerns for the parents in the community. So there is a lot to be proud about. What do I know continued? Looking at it from the administrator perspective, Daniel Stevens is the principal for the past 4 years. He has a really good relationship with the parents. He's well liked by the parents and he works well with parent leadership. He counts on parents to help with extracurricular activities just because of the fact that there is no vice principal. It doesn't appear to be any other administration. So it is just him. So he leans on the parents quite a bit. Mrs. Alice Bowen is an active parent volunteer. She has 3 students in the school system. She has 1 at the middle school, her daughter Lucy, and 2 older brothers now at the high school. Lucy Bowen, her daughter, recently made all-state cheerleading champion. She received an award for that and recognition at the school from Mr. Stevens over the announcements. And Mrs. Bowen has made a request for the PTA to fund Lucy's all-state trip. So that funding actually is a total of $798. It would go for the tickets, for the hotel, and for meals, and it would be for her and 4 other students that don't actually go to George Washington Middle. It would be students from other states. The other thing that we know is that there has been a cash discrepancy at the latest game. So what do I need to know? I need to know what other kinds of events has the George Washington PTA funded, other than Mrs. Bowen, who were the other volunteers who managed the money at the basketball game. Was any of the money counted prior to Mr. Stevens' count? There was a count detailed between him and the security guard, but I didn't hear about any previous count. And was there any change made from the cash collection? So they talked about concessions matching up with the inventory and the cash matching up with the ticket sales, but they didn't really talk about whether or not there was any change made. And there was that one particular man, Mr. Dumas, who had paid with a 50, but it is possible that change was made. So I would like to know more about that. Identifying the problem. I really see the problem being 3-tiered. The overall problem is that there tends to be here a meager administration relying on parents perhaps a little too much. The immediate problem is a discrepancy in ticket sales, and the continuing problem is how best to work with parents in the community volunteers in safeguarding finances. Category 2, proposed plan of action. So the immediate problem, okay, the discrepancy in ticket sales and cash collected. Step 1, if I were Mr. Stevens, I would want to review all who are in contact with the funds. Step 2, I want to clarify whether any change was made. Step 3, I want to clarify if the 10 tickets were sold or if they were simply discarded. So they talked about pre-numbered tickets, and it talked about tickets 78 through 88 being thrown out because they were torn, but it didn't actually say if those tickets were sold or not. So I was kind of confused by that, and I read through the study several times, so I'd want to clarify that. And then at step 4 would be meet with the PTA and other parent community volunteers to review procedures. The continuing problem is how to best work with parents and community volunteers in safeguarding finances. If I were Mr. Stevens, I'd want to continue to relationship build with families. I'd want to review financial policies and procedures, and I'd want to begin to conduct counts before cash collections or actually leaving the building. I think that's an easy check and balance that can be added in, and it definitely needs to be. The overall problem is that there's a meager administration relying on parents perhaps a little too much. If I were Mr. Stevens, I'd reach out to the district leadership to see if they could offer some support suggestions. I'd want to establish some alternatives to always relying on families. And I'd want to see if I could build some leadership opportunities within my own school building as a principal. There might be some staff who are interested in leadership opportunities. Category 3, promoting student success. So I want to ensure effective and efficient management to promote student success. I need my staff as a principal, or Mr. Stevens needs his staff as a principal, to work together to promote student success. I want to foster more building leadership opportunities within my own school building if I'm Mr. Stevens, and review the financial processes. Just make sure that there are policies and procedures written down, that everybody understands the expectation, so that we can all, or Mr. Stevens and everyone, can be part of the same team, because it's really all about the teamwork. Category 4, debriefing the problem. So what was I thinking, feeling, and valuing? Thinking about prior experiences, I can imagine that Mr. Stevens, as the only administrator in the building, was feeling pretty overwhelmed, and really kind of feeling for him in that sense, feeling that he needed more support, and kind of thinking back at times when I've been in leadership roles and felt like I needed support. And hopefully, Mr. Stevens can reach out to the district administration, or maybe even fellow administrators at the building level, and see if they can give him some strategies and solutions in dealing with really being the only administrator there in the building. And I think it was also important to value the strong connections Mr. Stevens already has with the community, already has good working relationships with the parents, and really value that. Unresolved issues. Want to safeguard against discrepancies with cash again, update and review of financial policies. And then I'm also kind of curious how the Foreman family really feels about the denial of PTO sponsorship for the all-state trip for Lucy. Maybe there are some ways that the family can fundraise independently, and maybe that can be something that can be suggested and explored. Again, the PTA really has to benefit all of the groups, so Mr. Stevens is right in that, has to benefit all students, but maybe there is a way that Lucy can be helped out in this. It's just not necessarily the PTA. Category 5, reflecting on the standard. So promoting academic success, identifying student and family needs, connecting learning through extracurricular activities. Again, they seem to be very interested in keeping those after-school activities and sports-related activities going. So the basketball, track, and volleyball. Team collaboration within the building between Mr. Stevens and his faculty, looking for those leadership opportunities among his staff, and also collaborating more with the community and parents, or continued collaboration. And increasing communication and planning it all. Again, putting those policies and procedures in place for finances, and maybe once there's those set guidelines in place, all of the other groups will follow suit and have those strong safeguards in place as well. Component 2, promoting student well-being, continuing to foster strong community supports, and continuing to honor family contributions. Mr. Stevens already has a really strong connection with the families in the community, so I want to make sure that Mr. Stevens continues to do that. Component 3 is ensuring effective and efficient management. Again, increasing his communication between himself and his staff members who might want some leadership opportunities, increasing strong communication between the parents and the community, valuing others' opinions, recognizing strengths and weaknesses. Mr. Stevens seems to be a little overwhelmed. He needs some help. He has a little weakness there, and maybe there are some other staff members who he could tap into some of their strengths. and providing support and feedback, going to the PTA, going to the Boosters Club, and really kind of helping them safeguard their finances. And here are my references, our handbook, our School Money Matters handbook that we've been using throughout the modules for school finance. And I want to thank everybody for listening to my presentation and viewing my presentation today. I do apologize if you hear some dogs barking in the background. I did try to put them outside so they wouldn't, but of course you might still be able to hear them. I am almost done with my non-degree endorsement. I have one more course that I plan to do in the spring, and then I will be done. I'm going to do my portfolio presentation and then be done. So I enjoyed working with all of you, and hopefully I'll see some of you again. Thank you so much.